Defenders. Please give it up for the brilliant Rosario Dawson!
Well, it's great to have you here.
It's great to
meet you. What a lovely crowd of people have turned out as well. I think everyone here is excited about the new season of Luke Cage, I think. Yeah, absolutely. What can you tell us about it? I'm guessing not a lot, but...
Can I tell you anything? But it comes out in June, and it's great. It's a really, really great season. The music's incredible. Mustafa, I think, is actually here at London Con. And Sheo is just wonderful, and I wish I could say that, like, the directors, they just got some really great directors. The first one in particular was really exciting to work with. And yeah, no, I think it's going to be really good.
What about your character? How is she growing? Because obviously, you know, she's been a sort of part of these Netflix shows for the last sort of 4 years now, so...
Yeah, it's pretty wild, actually. I don't know if I'll be back after this, to be honest, yeah. It's been an amazing few years and being on all different shows. I mean, I don't know if maybe they do a third season of Luke Cage, potentially, or maybe if they figure out some kind of way for me to be on The Punisher, just so I can feel like I was on every show. But yeah, it's been a really remarkable ride. My daughter's in high school now, so I kind of want to be not 3,000 miles away from her, or, you know what I mean?
Understandable, yeah. So,
it's different in middle school, but now she's boy crazy in high school, and it's a little like, I need to be home.
But so like you said, it's been a few years now, and you know, Daredevil was the first one. So what are your memories of sort of landing that role and
Again, my strongest one has to do with my daughter, actually. Well, first off, it was, I remember I was in India when Jeff Loeb called me to talk about the character. And then I talked to a bunch of my nerd Shazam, the folks that I can call who know all the obscure references. And I mentioned Claire Temple and Night Nurse, and some of my folks really knew who she was. And I just have always wanted to be a part of the Marvel Universe, and I wanted to, you know, fly or do something really cool. And they were like, no, you get to be MacGyver and like stop the bleeding with floss. Like a badass. And I was like, okay, not the exact Marvel character I thought I would kind of jump into, but it ended up being really remarkable. I actually had no idea when I first signed on that they were planning on doing all of the different shows and that my character would sort of end up in all of those universes. It was great. But what I remember the most always is my Claire is not until the second episode of the first Daredevil. And I thought I was going to have a whole month, so I was just in the process of adopting my daughter. I had her 1 week, she's 11 years old, I had her 1 week, and we had to start already prepping and shooting on Daredevil because they hadn't cast Deborah Woll yet, who ended up being in the first episode, so they had to push up the shooting for my character. So I just remember it just being really intense because I just became a mom. I was like a mom for a week, and all of a sudden I was, you know, in this world with Daredevil, and it was really cool because I had shaved the side of my head to do a couple of days shoot on Sin City 2. And I remember I'd wanted to shave my head like that for a really long time, but I thought it was going to cost me work. And then I ended up doing that, and Daredevil, and Top 5 with my head shaped like that. And it was like such a particular little moment in time before I grew it out and became like a serious song.
But Claire Temple, she's obviously an amalgam of two characters from the comics. So in a way, kind of a bit of a blank slate, you know. Did you sort of have much of a hand in sort of painting her as a character over the course of the series?
I mean, a bit, I think. But what was more interesting for me was kind of safeguarding what we did create in that first season, because each of the different shows are headlined or have different showrunners. So, and the tone of each of the different characters shows, the look, everything is very different. And so it was interesting maintaining my character's through line within it, because all of a sudden there'd be a whole other showrunner interpreting Claire with a very different tone. And I'd be sitting there going, like, it's awesome that she's so you know, upset in this scene, but you have her cursing 10 times, and she hasn't cursed that much in 4 other shows put together, you know, so it was always more being the one person pretty much on set besides some of the crew that had actually kind of been there throughout all of it and really kind of safeguarding sort of that journey, but also just having the chance to develop in all of those different worlds was just really interesting to see what she kind of kept picking up, you know, in those different relationships and how she evolved. So I really love where she's at right now.
Yeah, and she's an important character, like I say, because she is that constant, and also because she doesn't have the superhero, she doesn't have the superpowers, but she has her own set of abilities, you know, as a physician and nurse. So do you think, you know, that's an important thing for audiences to have a character like that who's that kind of every person they can identify with?
She definitely kind of gets to be the audience a little bit, you know, her kind of experience of everything is, I think, exactly what the audience would be saying, like, why are you wearing that suit? Like, that can't be smart to be going and fighting petty crime, blind, and like, a shirt. You might want to upgrade that a little bit, you're not invincible. And so it was kind of fun being able to be sort of more of the practical, very able to draw from my personal experience actually being a New Yorker. It's exactly the kind of situations and behaviors you'd want someone to call out, which I think is important because, you know, especially when we were first doing it, the show, Daredevil season 1 were called Bluff. So everywhere we shot, no one knew what it actually was, and there were a lot of people within the show who still didn't even know who we were. And since Daredevil's costume wasn't fully done, there were people within scenes with him that still didn't even know, because they were so private about everything and kind of safeguarding everything. And I go, oh, okay, I'll see you in the next episode. They're like, I'm coming back. I mean, like, it was so hidden. And so it was interesting because we had sort of like the weight of the previous film that had happened years ago and really trying to create our own sort of world. So by the time we got to the second season, there was a whole other different kind of pressure and kind of relief that it had worked and excitement. But like those very first episodes were just really, really special because we had no idea what we were embarking on. And now it's just remarkable to see where it's grown into Jessica Jones and The Defenders and Iron Fist and Luke Cage. Like, first season of Luke Cage, we're up in Harlem paying people to scream out Luke Cage. Second season, trying to pay people to make them stop because we'd be shooting and people would go, oh, Luke Cage! You know, like, but it's been like just really amazing to just watch the growth of it, and it sort of seems like a given now, but I think what Marvel and Netflix did in partnership is just really unusual. I just met someone in one of the lines who's just starting all of it, and I was like, okay, you're gonna start with Daredevil, Jessica Jones, it's kind of interesting being able to follow the storyline in that way, or just watch it on its own.
So how important is secrecy on this show, and how secrecy, and how difficult is that to maintain?
Everything. It's everything. Just because it's all released at once. And so we want to be able to allow people to have that full-on experience and be taken on that journey. And I don't know, like I really like how serious they take really just making sure that the fans get everything that they possibly can, and really safeguarding it for them. So it's interesting because I can't. Like, it's the weirdest thing to talk about because I can't say anything really definitive. It feels like.
Is it a case of sometimes they'll only give you a few pages of a script, like not even necessarily a whole episode, or?
No, we get our own script with our own names on it, but then we had to get a special email for a special system that's all fully, triply, quadruply encrypted. You can't get the script any other means. They were not, it's all, watermarked, and there's like a whole thing. They take your sides after, at the end of the day, everyone's names are on it. Like, it's like, don't let this out into the universe before anyone's supposed to be able to have access to it. It's pretty hardcore.
Right. So I think I've seen you say in other interviews that making a show like Luke Cage is like a 13-hour film.
Yeah, basically.
So logistically, what is that like as an actor shooting that? Because I should imagine you're getting through a lot of scenes very quickly.
Yeah.
No? I mean, how does it differ from making a movie? Does it differ at all?
Yeah, I mean, we have so much of everything built, so you kind of get to just sort of live there and really kind of get into it. I don't know, for me it's just different from film because it's, you know, I didn't know when I first signed on that I was gonna, you know, be in these relationships or I was gonna go into different kind of worlds because they couldn't necessarily tell you all of that. So it was similar. I just went on Jane the Virgin and I didn't know, it was kind of like a thing for Gina Rodriguez. She just asked if I could come through because they had another actress and she fell out and can she just come in? And then all of a sudden I'm making out with Petra and I was like, oh, I probably should have asked you that beforehand, but unlike with a movie script where you get the whole story and can really decide on it, you know, on a show, you're kind of just reading the pilot maybe and then hearing a kind of general of where it's going to go, and so you have no idea. And that can be pretty intense because sometimes, you know, because there's so many chefs in the kitchen, it's not always the easiest thing to shift the line or kind of negotiate certain things. So it was really challenging and kind of wonderful because I've been in the industry a really long time, so it's nice to kind of get to work and still be, you know, provocative and challenging and feel like you're still learning things, which is great.
Yeah. So what do you feel you have learned over the course of playing this character? You know, I guess the obvious thing would be sort of medical training, maybe.
Sure, I can stitch you up like no problem. Please come to me if you're bleeding. That would be a smart choice on your. No, I mean, I don't know. I wish I'd learned more martial arts stuff. I have to be honest. I didn't take as much of the training stuff as I possibly could because we didn't have very many opportunities for me to do so in character, so it didn't necessarily make any sense. But I wish I had done a little bit more of that. That's
so you won't be doing any martial arts in this new season?
I can fake it, but I'm just again like.
You've definitely been here. So if there's one thing that sort of unites these Marvel TV shows, I was sort of thinking about the sort of themes unites it, is that it's about using your abilities, whatever they are, for good, for helping other people. I wonder if that's one of the sort of things that you see it, and that's what sort of that's what attracts people to the part of it, as well as the characters.
What's the question? I'm so sorry.
Do you think that there's an overarching theme of using your abilities to help others, and that's something that we can carry over into everyday life?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about Claire so much, is this idea that she's a nurse, and, you know, she's gone through a more traditional route of being a hero. You know, she's studied, and she's passionate, and she's empathetic, and she's skilled. You know, she wasn't bit by a radioactive spider, or, you know, made of, you know, clay and, you know, Amazonian. You know, it's not any of those things. She's just, you know, no super extraordinary strength. She's not bulletproof or any of that kind of stuff. So for her to throw herself in the fray and be dealing with people who are hurt, which means they're irritated and angry, and it can be a really dangerous situation. Unfortunately, for a lot of our nurses and doctors, they're constantly abused and attacked by people. And, you know, so to see her just be able to maneuver that and manage that and talk sense into people who are constantly getting themselves hurt on purpose. And to see her kind of push past that point of just wanting to help people but also fight. It was just really remarkable to see that, you know, in general, all of us, we don't have to just pull out our camera when something terrible is happening and film it for someone else to watch later. It's like you can actually jump in and do something and maybe help yourself. And I always think that's a really good thing to foster compassion, empathy. If people see themselves in a situation where they kind of really question what they would do, I think that's a pretty good form of entertainment.
And your character, Claire Temple, she's been taken to pretty dark places, sort of, you know, over the last few shows and seasons. So, is there a sort of scene that sticks in your mind as being particularly challenging to perform, or was particularly satisfying to complete?
I really liked, I think, just like in that very beginning in Daredevil, she's on the roof, all kind of covered up in white, and really kind of seeing for the first time what she's gotten herself into. And starting to question, like, should I have let this guy bleed out when I first met him, or this is a good idea? And then watching her turn immediately and getting where he's coming from, I don't know, I really like that. I like that going into the second season, and it starts getting into these crazy undead ninjas, and you're like, I mean, she really had no idea what she was getting herself into. but kind of seeing her moment by moment just continue to make the choice to step up, and you know, she's like almost dies going over, and he like grabs her, and we're doing this whole scene breaking through the window and coming in. It was just really cool. It was one of my favorite moments, I think, because they crashed through this window and they're in so much pain and scratched up, and it's traumatizing. I mean, she could just just had her life flash before her eyes, and immediately she's getting up and helping to like fix his arm, and you know, and I would love to be that cool under pressure personally, and just like to recover that quickly, like. That would be nice. I trip though, and I'm like tripping then for like 5 more days. You know, just like so.
So, looking back through your film career, you've worked with some absolutely amazing directors. You know, Spike Lee, Danny Boyle, Oliver Stone, Tarantino.
Homegrown Danny Boyle.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you look for in a role? Is it that kind of characters that are grounded in some sort of reality? Because that feels like a constant in the roles that you've performed in.
What I look for in roles, you're asking me? I don't know. I think it's about just sort of the journey, whatever that moves me. That's the thing. The story moves me. It's not, and sometimes I've even grappled with that, playing a character. The character itself is not my favorite, but the overall story is something I'm just excited to be a part of, or to work with one of those directors, or be in one of those locations. So you sort of might seem a little bit arbitrary, some of my choices. I'm a schizophrenic, and I like kind of playing like a little bit of everything and kind of jumping around in genres and storytelling kind of tonalities. So I don't know. And I just directed my first little short for the first time, and it was really great for me to be able to resource all of those amazing experiences I've had over the past 24 years, and it not just be for an anecdote for an interview, but actually something I can apply on the day. And so it's interesting because I deferred going to college because I started acting at 15, and then he got game in my senior year, and I just thought, okay, I put off college for a year, and then didn't work for a year. But then after that, I kind of kept working, so I ended up kind of never going back. And but I still realized I've gone to, you know, I've had some of the best teachers over the years, and I'm just really grateful. It's been really, really wonderful, and I'm glad for whatever reasons I've chosen some of the stories that I've ended up being a part of, because they're a big, huge part of me, and I've learned well.
Is that something you're looking to move into more, directing, filmmaking?
Yeah, I mean, I just like the idea of again, exploring a different sort of avenue and having access to storytelling that doesn't necessitate me being right for a role in it, but just kind of creating it from a whole other aspect. And yeah, I think I definitely want to do more of that.
So just more generally then, I understand you're a big comic book fan, and you have been for a while. So I wonder, as a comic book reader, what you think about comic books pervading pop culture, kind of the mainstream now. I wonder what you think about seeing that go from, you know, something that's quite niche and something that's huge.
I think that's so interesting, thinking about it being insular, like the impact of the 75 plus years of Wonder Woman or Superman or any of that. I mean, it's completely changed our culture, and has, you know, really kind of given us an access point to all kinds of ideas of adventure and passion and skill and heroism and evil, and just really, you know, just kind of contemplate so many different things over the years. So even if it's like, you know, really serious stuff like Mouse or Persepolis or whatever, you know what I mean? There's some like really powerful storytelling there, or just, you know, just the idea of someone being invincible. And what, you know, what those kinds of particular flaws or ways to kind of get at somebody. It's you know, it just really puts people in a different edge. So I think it's, you know, it's just that much more ubiquitous, but I think it's been part of our lexicon for a really, really long time. And, you know, having, you know, an incredibly strong woman like Wonder Woman all of these years to kind of look up to and idolize, and seeing all the different iterations of her and how much she's changed, I think, is just such a great, telling way of looking at our history. And I just don't. I think it's the ramifications of it. I think are just so huge. There's no way to really tell. You know, you didn't have to buy the comics in order to be impacted by that. And I think just now we just have the technology and all that kind of stuff to make it bigger. But like Go-Go Gadget, Batman belts in black and white was something everybody, you know what I mean? That was really huge. And you had someone like Eartha Kitt, you know, like in a mainstream role. Like people are like, oh, you know, it's so cool you're voicing Wonder Woman, we needed a Latina. And I'm like, Linda Carter is Latina. Did you know that? You know, and so it's been a tremendous space for a lot of people and been really important storytelling for a long time. Like Frank Miller transforming Batman from Go-Go Gadget belt Batman into, you know, the brooding, like, let's actually really think about this guy's fighting petty crime dressed up like a bat. Got some social issues there, most likely, we could kind of delve into, you know, and it's really amazing to kind of see some of the harsh realities that we're kind of dealt with, you know, the choices that we make when we're lazy or you just think it's inconsequential and someone dies. Or childhood trauma. I mean, there's so much in the storytelling that I think is just really important for us and to kind of explore through this means. And I'm just grateful that it's gotten to this point now where it's like, you know, I'm doing I did this comic book with will.i.am, who did it with Stan Lee and all these folks where you can look over it with your phone and it's animated and there's all these voices in it and it's super interactive and like it's just cool to me to see that the comics world is just continuing to adapt into all these technologies and kind of give us stuff that makes it that much more accessible to people who you know, maybe are blind or all these different things, and it's just really, really fun. So I love the comic world. I'm grateful for it. My uncle's a comic book artist, so I've looked at him as sacred text my entire life because he wouldn't even let me touch his comic collection. I had to like read it over my shoulder, and he'd turn the pages so my little childhood hands wouldn't mess it all up. And so I just have always found them really valuable, and I'm glad that they're just that much more ubiquitous for us to enjoy.
Wow, fantastic. Well, I think
Thanks for lying,
we've got a few more minutes left, so shall I have a couple of questions from the audience? Anybody want to ask a question? Oh yeah. Go ahead, sir.
So you talked about how helpful Claire is and how you're so grateful that she can always help people even though she's crashing through a window and she straight away goes to help people. But do you think that there'll ever be a point at which Claire will say, no, for my own safety I won't help you, or what would it take for Claire not to help, say, Luke Cage or Daredevil or something like that?
Good question.
Good question. You know, I think ultimately it's really about her ethics and morals, and she does look at sort of the bigger picture. I think that's why she wouldn't, you know, obviously hesitate to help the bad guy as well as the good guy, because just life is so important to her. But I think, you know, it's been interesting watching how she's continued to grapple with sort of where she draws the line, you know, and seeing that get pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think, you know, you'll see, you'll have a very strong answer to that question actually in the second season of Luke Cage. No, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Me?
We're not going back and forth
this
yet,
one.
okay?
Sorry.
Hi, obviously you're in both Luke Cage and Daredevil, and when I watched them I kind of felt like they had quite a different sort of tone. How was that for you, being in both?
I love it. I love that because it's also, I'm in Defenders and I have like one episode in Jessica Jones, the last episode for season, and then as well as an Iron Fist, and so it was really nice because we are different with different people, you know, and it's really great to be able to have so many different people to play off of as different ages and different levels of experience that kind of continue to challenge about why she's in this world and what she's doing, and, you know, her constant grappling with herself and what she's gotten herself into. So I really like it because each of the different showrunners have a different tone. I mean, they're visually, the lighting and the color schemes and everything were always so completely different, and so it was really fun kind of still maintaining this idea of Claire, but not being so steadfast to it that you couldn't allow her to evolve. And this is the first time I've ever lived with a character for this many years, unless, you know, you count how long it took to do the sequel to Sin City with Gale. So I really, I love it. I love that, and I think it's cool to live with a character for so long and see, just like in real life, how we evolve and grow and be able to look back at where we started to where we are. You know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Josie and the Pussycats.
Yes!
I think it's one of the most underrated movies of all time. Seriously, and the most product placement movie ever in history.
You're so pretty and popular.
Yeah, very. I just want to ask about your personal experiences on that movie, your happiest moments on set with everyone in that movie. Josie and the Pussycats.
God, we had so much fun on that movie. That was crazy. I remember this one moment where we're shooting the big concert at the end of the film. We stepped outside and some of the girls smoked, so we kind of came out to smoke a cigarette. And I'll just never forget, like, I was standing there and all of a sudden Rachel's eyes got really big like this and Tara's eyes got really big and they're like, we should go back inside, Rosario. And I was like, why? And I suddenly realized I had like 5 people on me. And my like New York radar had suddenly disappeared in this crowd of people, and I had like someone playing with my ears, and someone else was playing with the sparkles in my hair, and someone else was tugging on my tail, and like, oh, and you're so used to on set that someone's always adjusting you. I wasn't paying attention. It was just literally all these different fans that were just sort of like slowly trying to peel away all my clothes. That was a really fun moment.
Okay,
That's a good anecdote. I do like that. Okay, I think we've got time for one more.
Oh, I'm sorry. I talk really slow. Or fast, but too much. No.
Hi. First of all, I would like to say you're really beautiful.
Oh my gosh!
Like more than
So good. Okay.
So you're not only an actress, you're also a singer. You sing, I think it was 2001 for the series of Aliyah. You also work as a voice character for Rosario Dawson and Eco Dimensions. How was it to work on this different of art? Sorry, my English is really bad. These different of places of art, like you're not only acting, like you're not only like in front of the camera, you need to like work.
So it's mixing voice acting with working in front of the camera, live action.
So working in front of the camera is always interesting, but you know, you're really sort of the space and the camera angles and all that kind of stuff it's such a collaborative thing, and it still is obviously for voice acting, but almost all the time you're really just by yourself and you're not actually performing with any of the other actors. And so it's really interesting because you can just be there in your sweats, smelly, you know, not showered, no makeup, and just like having this amazing like romantic scene that you're acting out, and it just being totally fine. It's like, it's great. I love voice acting. I mean, in the Marvel world, I get to play the amazing Claire Temple, but in the DC world, I get to be Wonder Woman and Batgirl. It's kind of like, yes. And so I just like nerd out the entire time, and we just spend hours just goofing around and just playing and getting to see all the art as it comes in. And it's a really long process. It can be a couple of years actually. I've gotten to do some really great video games as well, and you know, like Dishonored, and you know, I just grew up loving cartoons and all kinds of things. So it's like, okay, your character dies, but she's gonna die by fire, and by gunshot, and by explosion, and by knife wound, and so it's like you're gonna make all those sounds distinct. You're like, you know, like, and it's just like it's just my heaven. Like it's so much fun just knowing someone else is gonna end it. It's like such a weird, totally different process. But I do love them both. But I have to probably say my favorite is doing VO. I definitely want to do more of that.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Great stuff. I think
You're gonna cut off Spider-Man? He's even showing.
I think we're going to have to make time for Spider-Man, aren't we? Look at
Gotta
that.
at least.
Thank you.
Yes.
So what's your question?
Sorry.
So there is a rumor on the internet that you're actually going to be playing Ahsoka Tano in an upcoming Star Wars
I
show.
started that rumor. Thank you so much for spreading it.
So
Please do more.
we do really.
Anyone wants to make a petition, I will sign it.
I can do it. Like, you know, seriously, we'd all love, I think I can speak for all the fans, you
Yeah.
to play Ahsoka, so I wanted to know if you would actually like to play on Star Wars show.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yes, 100%. Yes. Listening.
Do that.
Yes.
Kathleen Kennedy's listening.
Yes. I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna talk with a friend of mine just to make, like, we're gonna write a little short story and just film it and then just put that out into the universe. So whether I'm officially hired or not, I can still be a part of Star Wars lore. Like, that, I'm not even kidding. I'm gonna, like, do that, and I think I'm gonna do the Hulk, She-Hulk. Just cause. Like, how dope. Like, I know that they actually ever made that movie. It'll probably never, and I can't play it. But how cool would that be if suddenly Claire Temple, like, had some weird situation and there was Hulk? That'd be great. And then they practice law together. Like, I mean, come on. Okay, never mind. Anyway. That's my dream.
Well, thanks ever so much for your time, Rosario. It's been a real pleasure. So much. Thank you, George.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a massive round of applause to our panelists today. We have the brilliant Rosario Dawson and, of course, the moderator of today, Mr. Ryan Lambie. If you wish to pick up Ryan's book, you can do. It is at the